guys, it's Amy. Welcome back to Too Blessed. I wanted to share with you today something a little different than what I normally share on my channel. And I just wanted to share a little bit of encouragement, hopefully, for these times that we're going through. I know everyone is worried and concerned and nervous about what's happening, and I just had some thoughts that I wanted to share to maybe encourage you a little bit. So this morning on Facebook, one of my friends had shared a video of someone singing the song, "It Is Well With My Soul." And that is definitely one of my all-time favorite songs. It's beautiful. It's so encouraging. And it's one of those old hymns that, we hear it frequently, but it seems like a lot of churches these days are getting away from using the old hymns. Everybody wants to use, new, updated music. And I feel like that's a shame sometimes because these old songs just have such powerful messages in them. And sometimes when we do sing these songs in church, we kind of don't think about the words so much because we've heard it so many times, we've sang it so many times that we just kind of are doing it, sort of on automatic pilot, and we're not really listening to the words. And that's what I did this morning. I watched that video and I listened to the words, and it really touched my heart and just seemed like it was very appropriate for the things that are going on in the world right now. And I thought I would share the story behind that song. I know I've heard it a lot of times. I grew up in church, and so I remember hearing different pastors use this story as an illustration and things like that. But there might be some of you out there that haven't heard the story, or maybe just haven't heard it in a while. So I thought I would share a little bit about that. Because to me, it makes the song itself even more powerful to know what that man was going through when he actually wrote it. So the man that wrote "It Is Well With My Soul," his name was Horatio Spafford. He lived in Chicago in the late 1800s. And he had actually been through a few other difficult times in his life before the incident that actually prompted him to write this song. He and his wife had lost a 4-year-old son. I didn't find a lot of detail about that situation as far as what had happened with his son, but they had a 4-year-old son who had died. And then Horatio Spafford was a lawyer, and like I said, he lived in Chicago, and he was apparently pretty successful. He had a good bit of money, and he had invested in a lot of different properties in the Chicago area. And then in 1873 was the Great Chicago Fire, and because he had invested his money in property and most of that property was just destroyed by that fire, he pretty much lost just about everything he had at that point. And then he and his wife had 4 daughters, and they were going to sail to Europe. And right before the ship departed, sort of an urgent situation had come up in his business affairs that he had to take care of. And so he sent his wife and their daughters ahead on the ship, and he was going to follow later once he got that business situation taken care of. Well, as his wife and daughters were traveling, the ship that they were on actually collided with another ship, and their ship went down, and all 4 of his daughters were killed. His wife did survive, and she was able to be transported to Europe, and she sent him a telegram to let him know that she had made it, but their children had all died. They lost all of their children. And so later, when he was able to get a ship and go to meet his wife, as the ship was passing over the spot where those 2 ships had collided and his daughters had perished, that was when he wrote that song, "It Is Well With My Soul." And like I said, I feel like that really, it brings a whole new perspective when you look at the words of the song and think about what he was going through when he wrote that. To be able to write "It Is Well With My Soul" when he had virtually lost everything. He was in a similar situation to Job in the Bible, where Job had lost all his children and lost everything he owned. He still had his wife, but he had lost everything else. And this man could still say, "It is well with my soul." And that really touched my heart and made me realize that, we're complaining about not being able to eat out at a restaurant, not being able to go to the mall, or, not being able to send our kids to school. And those are just minor inconveniences, those don't really matter. And especially with what's going on, we think about there are people that are losing their family members, that are dying to this virus. And so it just puts things in perspective. And then as I was reading through the words of the song, "It Is Well With My Soul," just the very first verse, I feel like I got so much out of that just by reading those over and thinking about them. Because the song starts out by saying, "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul." And it really struck me that he compared peace to a river. And we can think of a river just flowing along, and a lot of times you might sit by a river and just watch the water flow, and it feels very peaceful. But then he compared sorrow to the sea, to the ocean, and to, an ocean maybe with a storm when the billows are raging. And I thought, when you kind of think about it a little deeper, so he compared peace to something like a river, which is much, much smaller, but sorrow he compared to the sea. And when we're going through something that is very sorrowful, maybe losing a family member, losing a loved one, that sorrow feels like it just envelops you, it encompasses you, and you can't see an end to it. And that's how the ocean is, or the sea. If you're out there in a boat, you can't see anything but the water for a long time. And I thought that was just such a powerful way to show the two differences. Like when everything is peaceful and calm, we don't really think a lot about it. We don't necessarily sit down and go, "Wow, everything's really great right now." But then when sorrow comes, it just overpowers us. It just overwhelms us. And I thought that was a really, I don't know the right word to use now, but just like I said, just a really powerful visual of those two, the differences between those two. And it really convicted me. I feel like this is something that I have been learning over the last couple of years, is to really appreciate the good times. But that really brought it home to me again, that, when everything does get back to normal, when everything calms back down and we go back to our everyday life, are we just going to forget? Are we just going to pretend that didn't happen? I have really sort of decided and committed myself that I want to use this time to maybe, I'm having trouble with my words today. I can't think of what I want to say, but to just, so that later when I look back at this time, I can say that I used this time well, instead of I didn't just sit at home and watch Netflix all the time or whatever. I want to make my time productive, and so that when the peaceful times come again, and the peaceful times will come again, but I want to be able to look back and say, we made it through that time, and I'm a better person because of that time. So I just want to encourage you, with this time that we have on our hands, if you're at home and you can't go anywhere, you don't have all those outside activities, what can you do to make this time worthwhile? Build relationships with the people in your home. Build relationships with your children. Make memories with your children. Or, cultivate your relationship with the Lord. Take some extra time to do that. Maybe time that you feel like you don't normally have. I hear a lot of mothers who will say they're so busy all the time, they don't have time for personal devotions with the Lord. Well, use this time. You're not running out taking your kids to all the activities. So use this time to do that and introduce your children to that if you haven't before. You know, use this time for something that will make you a better person, make you have a better family, just make you have a better life when things do get back to normal. So I hope, like I said, I just wanted to share those thoughts that I had. I hope maybe it encourages you. I would love in the comments below if you want to share your ideas for what you're doing with all this time. That's all I have for today, guys, and I will see you in the next video.